Okay. All right. Yeah, we're in. So, uh, this is First Kings 4, everybody. We just went through 1 through 3. David died. Vengeance on Joab has been taken, and I think a few others. Adonijah tried to succeed David, but failed. And it was against David's wishes. It was against Bathsheba and Nathan's wishes, too. Pretty clear. And then David died. Solomon was endorsed by Nathan the prophet and Zadok the priest. And now one of the most famous scenes in Solomon's reign is at the very front end, where he has a very, it must have been one of those dreams. You know how some dreams are like, it was just what you had to eat last night, and it's not a big deal. And then other dreams, they like really speak to us. And this one was probably a few levels above that, obviously. It was God himself talking to Solomon and saying, whatever you want, I'll give it to you. And Solomon says, I'd like wisdom. And, pretty big deal. So now here we are at Psalm 20, or not Psalm 25, chapter 4 of First Kings, chapter 4 of First Kings. Solomon's officials and governors. So King Solomon ruled over all of Israel, and these were his chief officials: Azariah, son of Zadok the priest, Elariah and Ahijah, sons of Shishai, were the secretaries. Jehoshaphat, son of Elihud, recorder. Benaniah, son of Jehoiada, was commander-in-chief. Zadok and Abiathar are priests, and so Zadok was a priest in David's reign, at least I want to say towards the later part of David's reign, and he's kept with that. Azariah, son of Nathan, in charge of the district governors. Zabad, son of Nathan, a priest and advisor. I'm assuming that's Nathan the prophet, but I don't know. Ashershar was palace administrator, and Adoniram, son of Abda, in charge of forced labor. My brother's calling me. I think I'm going to take this. All right, done with the phone call. Solomon had 12 district governors over all of Israel, who supplied provisions for the king and the royal household. Each one had to provide supplies for 1 month in the year. These are their names. Okay. Ben-Hur. Interesting. Ben-Hur. That's got to be where they got it from, right? A guy named Ben-Hur in the hill country of Ephraim. Ben-Hur's a movie, for those of you who don't know old movies. In the hill country of Ephraim, Ben-Decker in Makkah's Shalbim, Beth Shemesh and Elon Bethanen, Ben-Hezid in Arubath, Sukkah, and all the land of Hefer were his. Ben-Aminadab in Naphoth Dor, he was married to Taphath, daughter of Solomon. Bana, son of Elihud in Tanakh and Megiddo, and Beth-Shan next to Zareth, below Jezreel, from Beth-Shan to Abel Mohalah across the Joachim, and Ben-Geber in Ramoth Gilead, The settlements of Jair, son of Manasseh in Gilead, were his, as well as the region of Argob in Bashan, and 60 large walled cities with bronze gate bars. Ahinadab, son of Iddo, in Mahanaim, and Himaz in Naphtali. He married Basma's daughter of Solomon. And once again, there are just details here that we just don't understand. Bana, son of Hushai, in Asher, in Aloth, and Jehoshaphat, son of Purah, in Azekar, Shimei, son of Elah, in Benjamin, Gibber, son of Uri, in Gilead, the country of Sihon, king of Amorites, and the country of Og, king of Bashan. He was the only governor over the district. And immediately two thoughts come to mind with these really detailed genealogies. Like, one is, once again, that this book is so much more detailed than we're ready for. Another is that God remembers everybody's name. So, these are people that even if we don't understand their stories, God remembers them. And, we could take some comfort in that, believing that God notices us. Solomon's daily provisions, verse 20. The people of Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand on the seashore. So, alluding to the Abrahamic promise there. And Solomon ruled over all the kingdoms from the Euphrates River to the land of the Philistines as far as the border of Egypt. These countries brought tribute and were Solomon's subjects all his life. Solomon's daily provisions were 30 cores of the finest flour and 60 cores of meal, 10 head of stall-fed cattle, 20 of pasture-fed cattle, and 100 sheep and goats, as well as deer, gazelles, roebucks, choice fowl. For he ruled over all the kingdoms west of the Euphrates, from Tifach to Gaza, and had peace on all sides. During Solomon's lifetime, Judah and Israel from Dan to Beersheba lived in safety, everyone under their own vine and under their own fig tree. That makes me think of Hamilton and that awesome song, I want to sit under my own vine and fig tree. And of course, that's an allusion to this very passage here, that George Washington was he was a tired old man, where he's getting there very quick, and he wanted a time of peace. And that phrase, sit under my own, everybody was sitting under their own vine and fig tree. It's a picture of peace, right? There's been so much war in David's reign and Saul's reign and the judges' reign. And of course, in even the Exodus, in Joshua and Exodus, it's so much excitement, but not exactly a lot of peace or rest, right? And in this way, you could say Solomon was greater than David, in the sense that it was a time of peace. This verse is not attributed to David's reign, it's attributed to Solomon's reign. So I'll just read that again because it's such a beautiful verse. During Solomon's lifetime, Judah and Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, just that whole span, lived in safety, everyone under their own vine and under their own fig tree. Solomon had 4,000 stalls for chariots and 12,000 horses. The district governors, each in his month, supplied provisions for King Solomon and all who came to the king's table. They saw to it that nothing was lacking. They also brought to the proper place their quotas of barley and straw for the chariot horses and other horses. Solomon's wisdom, verse 29. God gave Solomon wisdom and very great insight, and the breadth of understanding is measureless as the sand on the seashore. Solomon's, that's interesting that's used again, but this time it's not to number the people in Israel. It's the sand of the seashore is illustrative of Solomon's endless wisdom. So there's the endless numbers of the Israelites now and the endless amount of wisdom of Solomon's reign, and both are described like grains of sand on the seashore. Solomon's wisdom was greater than the wisdom of all the people of the East and greater than all the wisdom of Egypt. He was wiser than anyone else, so all to the west, all to the east, right? He was wiser than anyone else, including Ethan the Ezrahite, wiser than Heman, Kalka, and Darda, the sons of Mahal, and his fame spread to all surrounding nations. He spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his songs numbered 1,005. He spoke about plant life, so he was like something of a scientist, right? He spoke about plant life, from the cedars of Lebanon to the hyssop that grows out of all of the walls. He also spoke about animals and birds and reptiles and fish. From all nations, people came to listen to Solomon's wisdom, sent by all the kings of all the world who had heard of his wisdom. It makes me kind of think of Leonardo da Vinci, who was like, he was famous for not just being a painter, you know, of the Mona Lisa, but he was also an inventor. But here it almost sounds like he was like a scientist, but he's also like a sage. So he's something between like Leonardo da Vinci and Socrates almost, right? Like Solomon's wisdom was vast. Be interesting to like dig up some old books that were science books penned by Solomon himself, you know, like how interesting would that be? It's like we think Darwin was the OG. It was Solomon all the way. Chapter 5, preparations for building the temple. When Hiram, king of Tyre, heard that Solomon had been anointed king to succeed his father, he sent his envoys to Solomon because he had always been a friend on friendly terms with David. Solomon sent back this message to him. You know that because of the wars waged against my father David from all the sides, he could not build a temple for the name of the Lord his God until the Lord put his enemies under his feet. But now the Lord my God has given me rest on every side, and there is no adversary or disaster. I intend, therefore, to build a temple for the name of the Lord my God, as the Lord told my father David when he said, your son, whom I will put on the throne in your place, will build the temple for my name. So give orders that cedars of Lebanon be cut for me. My men will work with yours, and I will pay you for your men whatever wages you set. You know that we have no one so skilled in felling timbers as the Sidonians. So the Sidonians were like the best lumberjacks on earth. You know, Oregon has some pretty big trees too. I wouldn't say they're as big as the cedars of Lebanon, but I haven't been there. Just Northern California and Oregon have huge trees. And we're in a little forest right now. I just want to give you an idea. Like, these are really big trees. Lots of these trees, you can't even really see the top of them. They're just too tall. That trunk that we're looking at right there, I gotta believe that's maybe 12 feet around, pretty close. That's a pretty hefty tree, I would say. Wonder how big the cedars of Lebanon were. I bet they were pretty comparable. Maybe we could just look that up really quick. We're just going to geek out for a second. Solomon's building a temple, and he's talked this to the Sidonians, who are like the best lumberjacks in the region. How big are the cedars of Lebanon? They're very big, can grow quite large. Oh, they're huge. So these cedars are interesting. They're not as tall, I don't think. Reaching heights up to 120, I mean, that's tall. That's super tall. And 10 feet in diameter. So even bigger than what we got here. I don't know. I don't think they're 120 feet tall here in Oregon, at least not the ones in front of me. I don't know. That'd be interesting, because these Oregon pines are big. Maybe they are over 100 feet. Excuse me. Oregon pines. Oh, geez, they're huge. Yeah, Oregon pine trees like the ponderosa or Douglas fir can grow to impressive heights up to 200 feet, while others like the Oregon green Austrian pine are smaller, 18 to 20. The ones here at Mount Tabor, I would say like minimum 80 feet. And maybe some of these are well over 100. So, yeah. I think they're pretty comparable in some ways. Maybe cedars of Lebanon are a little bit wider, but I don't know. It all depends on the tree, right? All right. When Hiram heard Solomon's message, he was greatly pleased and said, "Praise be to the Lord today, for he has given David a wise son to rule over the great nations." So Hiram sent word to Solomon, "I've received the message you have sent me and will do all you want in providing the cedar and the juniper logs. My men will haul them down from Lebanon to the Mediterranean Sea, and I will float them on rafts by the sea to the place you specify. There I will separate them, and you can take them away, and you are to grant my wish by providing food for my royal household." All right, so that's the pay, I guess. Interesting. In this way, Hiram kept Solomon supplied with all of the cedar and juniper logs he wanted, and Solomon gave Hiram 20,000 cores of wheat as food for his household, in addition to 20,000 baths of pressed olive oil. Wow. Man, we're talking resources right now. Solomon continued to do this for Hiram year after year, and the Lord gave Solomon wisdom just as he had promised. There were peaceful relations between Hiram and Solomon, and two of them made a treaty. King Solomon conscripted laborers from all Israel, 30,000 men, and he sent them off to Lebanon in shifts of 10,000 a month. So they spent 1 month in Lebanon and 2 months at home. Adoram was in charge of forced labor. Solomon had 70,000 carriers and 80,000 stone cutters in the hills, as well as 3,300 foremen who supervised the project and directed the workers. At the king's command, they removed from the quarry large blocks of high-grade stone to provide a foundation of dressed stone for the temple. The craftsmen of Solomon and Hiram and workers from Byblos cut and prepared the timber and stone for the building of the temple. And I don't know, I think we're just going to keep it short today. We've been doing some pretty bulky readings, and I think we're just going to keep it to 17 minutes today. So we see kind of the beginnings of the temple here and the beginnings of this beautiful season of peace where everybody's sitting under their own vine and fig tree. And Lord, I just pray that that you would grant maybe some peace for all those who are listening with me today, that's similar to the peace that Israel was experiencing. That we would be able to sit under our own vine and fig tree and just be happy with the peace that you've given us. And you know, guys, I appreciate you listening, and I really hope you have a good day. Catch you later.